What is up, everybody? It is Court. I am here with Gina from Taking the Backroads. She is a restaurant photography guru. Gina's going to break down and show us, talk about how to do restaurant photography, elevate it for your restaurant. So, Gina, what are common mistakes that you see all the time when it comes to photography with restaurants?
Hey, Court, thanks for having me on. So, a couple of the things that I see most often, there's actually three of them that seem to be the biggest problem. One of them is really poor lighting, another one is blurry photos, and a third is unappetizing photos. And, when you're in the restaurant business, you really need an appetizing photo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about it. So, poor lighting. You said poor lighting,
Yeah.
unappetizing. And what was the second one?
Blurry photos.
Blurry photos. All right. So, let's start with the first one, poor lighting.
Sure. Yeah. So that's oftentimes that folks are just snapping a picture with their phone in the kitchen. Maybe they're in a hurry, they're in a dimly lit area, and that's causing problems because it's not visually appealing. So it's not going to stop the scroll on a social media feed. And if you really want to engage with your clientele, you want to make sure you stop the scroll and give people something to really focus on and nail down that they want to eat that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any tips with the lighting? I mean, do you recommend like a ring light or something that people use?
So absolutely. So ring lights, yes, they can be used. Um, Typically, the best way to go about getting good lighting for food photography is going to be indirect natural lighting. So if you have a window where you're getting nice sunlight coming through, but it's not glaring down on the food, that's going to be what's going to be most helpful. So if you're going to have to use artificial lighting, you want to make sure it's diffused and make sure your color is correct, because a lot of times the color can be off when you use artificial lighting.
So the second one was blurry photos.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you
So
fix that?
again, a lot of times I get it, restaurateurs are busy. They're in the kitchen, they're front of house, they're back of house, they're everywhere, and they've got that iPhone or Android or whatever, and they're snapping photos as they go. But hold still. You have your plate on the table or on the counter or pass bar or wherever. Hold still and take that photo, really concentrate on it, because a blurry photo, it's no good. I mean, you can post it, but it's not going to help you much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any tips like in the phone, like, tapping on the subjects, things like that, that can help with the blurriness?
Um, so typically with a phone, it's more the person holding it than it
Mm.
is the problem with the phone itself.
Mm.
So a lot of times the phones are so advanced now that they have great focus, but a lot of times it's the person trying to rush through it, or they're getting ready to snap it and they get distracted, so they look and they tap it at the same time. So just really focus in on what you're doing, and just hold still for those few seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then the third one I think is really interesting that I have always struggled with, which is unappetizing food. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, it looks great on the plate, right? But when it comes time to take a picture, it doesn't always translate.
Yeah.
That's why these big agencies do that food styling and they use like, I don't know, all kinds of things that
Artificial
aren't the
thing.
real ingredients. Like I think I've seen people that use oil instead of chocolate, like,
Yeah.
things like that. What tell us, how can you style your food better?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest things that I find in restaurant photography specifically, so not necessarily stylized to the point of being on a set, but in an actual restaurant,
Mhm.
is the background. So really take a second to realize what your background looks like. I actually had this one client who posted a photo, and I had to call him up and tell him, "Hey, you got to take that photo down," because it looked like he had it on a dirty carpet. It was actually a tablecloth, but you couldn't tell. It was zoomed in so close, and it looked like it was a dirty carpet. And I was like, "You got to take that off of there, dude. It's not good."
Yeah.
So you got to pay attention to the background. Um, and get out clutter and anything that looks weird. Also, another tip is to make sure you have color on your plate. So here in Texas, we do a lot of fried stuff. We got chicken fried steaks, we got fried chicken, we got fried fish, and you're gonna usually pair that with some kind of carbohydrate. that everything is brown. So make sure that things aren't completely covered with gravy, and make sure there's color on the plate. So if you have a chicken fried steak, put a gravy like in the middle and not over the entire chicken fried steak. And then pair it with some bright vegetables to really bring some color and make the photo pop.
That's a great tip. Great tip. Should do you like getting in close on the food? Do you like staying far away? Like what do you like on that?
So me particularly, I really like to get close onto photos. It really depends on the photo itself, and it depends on the photo shoot. So sometimes it's further away. It's stylized with multiple plates and drinks and situations like that. If we're talking individual pictures on a social media post or something like that, typically I'm going to be pretty close. And a lot of times it's like a 45-degree angle when you're shooting at it, not straight down. There's some dishes that look better straight down, some dishes that look better at a 90, but a lot of times 45 is a nice safe degree to come in at.
I like that. That's a good tip.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do restaurant owners need like equipment? Do you think they need like lighting, fancy cameras? What do you tell people?
So no, I don't think you have to go all in on equipment. I think you can totally do it with an iPhone or an Android phone, a smartphone. Are your photos going to be of better quality, but just a better image and easier to edit if you have professional gear? Yes, absolutely. But can you do good photos with a smartphone? For sure, for sure. And like I said, you can do it with natural lighting, or you can invest in some relatively inexpensive artificial lights. You just got to make sure that color's coming out correct so it doesn't look weird. You don't want your gravy to be blue or to be too yellow, or you want your colors to show through correctly.
Yeah. One thing I've seen is a like a light that hooks onto your camera.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen those?
I have.
Yeah. Do you have one? What's your experience been like on
So
that?
I do have a small one. The one that I bought isn't great, but I didn't invest any money in it. I just wanted to kind of see what it was like. I
Yeah.
wanted to see what the mounting bracket and everything was like. So I'm not super enthused with the one that I got, but like I said, I don't know. It was like $10 on Amazon.
Okay.
Super cheap.
There you go. There you go. We talked about styling tips. I know you wanted to talk about that. Were there other things? What other things? We talked about the color. Other things with styling you would recommend?
Um, uh, so I would think that the biggest tip is really going to be the lighting and making sure that everything just looks nice in the photo. I wouldn't go too far in depth on necessarily like the flow of the photo, and you can get really far off into the rule of thirds and like lots of photography rules, but as a restaurateur, it's not really necessary for, say, your social media posts. Now, when you get further into it and maybe you're putting out for your website or something like that, you might want to go into more of the ideologies. But
Well, and so that segues nicely into the next section where, okay, a restaurant, they either they're like, I don't have time for this, or I don't know how to do this, or, I want someone to really just come in and do their thing. And this is your superpower. So
yeah.
what does that look like when a restaurant works with a food photographer like you?
Absolutely. So there's a few different options. You can hire me or other food photographers for things as simple as, 5, 10 photos, or all the way up to I've done hundreds of photos for like menu photo shoots and website updates and things like that. And so we can do the full gamut and get you a lot of really good quality images for whatever you need. Oftentimes, that's going to consist of meeting with the photographer, at least an initial consultation. And then, depending on the depth of the shoot, it could consist of another consultation, setup, things like that. The actual photo shoot itself, the length of that is going to depend on, again, how many photos you want to take and how much styling you want done to them. And then the return on it, how long it takes to get them back, Again, it'll depend on how many photos. So it can take up to several weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. The really big shoot that I had where it was several hundred, it took about 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks to get everything back to the client.
Yeah. And then does the restaurant typically own all those and have rights over that?
So I know some photographers only allow certain usage rights. So it's like a certain length of time and you're allowed to use them for certain things. So for your social media or for your website or something of that nature. So it really depends on the photographer. I know that that's fairly standard. I don't usually limit usage to that extent. I maintain copyright on my photos. So like I can still say it's mine. I can still use it in all of my website and promotion and everything. But I give the photos to my clients and say, hey, use them however you want to for as long as you want to, because I only work with mom and pop restaurants. I don't work with corporate restaurants where they're going to use it for national campaigns or things like that.
Yeah. Love that. Do you ever, when you do these photo shoots, what does that look like? What is it, an hour, 2 hours? And how do you spend your time doing that?
So it really depends on the number of dishes that they want shot. Most of my photo shoots are going to be 2.5, 3 hours. And I get typically 40 images or so out of it. But really it depends on the number of items that you want photos of.
What would you say in 3 hours? How many dishes could they?
So typically within 3 hours, we're looking at 60 to 75
Dishes?
Yeah. Now that's assuming that everything is, there on time. It's coming to the table
Yeah.
and, we're moving through. I have had a photo shoot where I had to sit and wait for each individual dish to be cooked. And so, that's just me sitting around. That's just, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've done this before and working with photographers. And yeah, I mean, it's great when like we went in at like 9 o'clock in the morning and they just had the chef just pumping out food. And it was just like, okay, here it is.
Yes.
And yeah, you get a lot of great things out of
Yes.
that. So
Yeah.
okay, great. Gina, this is fabulous. How can people find you if they want to work with you?
Absolutely. You can check out my my website at Takin the Backroads, and that's TAKIN. There's no G. takinthebackroads.com, or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram, and it's the same handle, Takin the Backroads.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Gina, thank you so much. Fabulous information. Everybody check her out if you're looking for restaurant photography tips. Hope everybody's having a great day. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.